see them all coming in.
Come join the party.
So a few more people coming in. Awesome. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another virtual presentation brought to you by the Boca Chamber. We are so happy you can join us this afternoon. My name is Chastity Navarro. I am the events manager at the Boca Chamber, and today we're going to be talking about strategies for marketing in today's digital landscape. But before we go on with our program, I'm going to have Sophia Lopez come on and tell you a little bit about some Zoom housekeeping. Sophia?
Hi everyone, happy Friday. I'm Sophia, I work in the events department. Before we get started, I just wanted to mention that this entire presentation is being recorded and will be available on our YouTube playlist later this evening. We will also be sending a follow-up email with a link to that recording and a PDF of the PowerPoint that you guys will be seeing throughout the presentation. And lastly, we'll be taking questions. So there's a Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Looks like a toolbar. Just click that. You'll be able to submit your questions, and we will get to those at the end. Our speakers will answer those live. That's it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Sophia. So we have two speakers with us today. We have Georgie Brown and we have Kara Biggs. And I'm going to introduce Georgie to kick us off. Georgie has over 25 years of hands-on experience and proven track record in strategically leading many major brands, startups, municipalities, and entrepreneurial growth organizations to leverage the power of innovative branding and marketing strategies. At Brandstar, Georgie is responsible for identifying and developing integrated marketing strategies. And so without further ado, Miss Georgie Brown. She'll be coming on now, sharing her video.
Okay. Well, hi. Happy Friday. Thank you, Chastity. We are just thrilled to be here today. We love Boca Raton. We actually were recently awarded as the exclusive marketing vendor for the city of Boca Raton. So you'll actually be hearing from us because we're working hand in hand with the city of Boca as we speak on a whole reopening campaign for the city. I'm joined today by Kara Biggs, who is my right hand. Kara is our director of marketing at Brandstar. She's an absolute rock star, and I'm really looking forward to having her share some really practical strategies and tactics that you can use today when you leave this webinar. For those of you that don't know Brandstar, so we're located we're a neighbor to Boca. We're in Deerfield Beach, and Brandstar has been around for over 20 years, and we're a full service, fully integrated marketing and production company. So we normally, anybody, once we're all opened up, we love to have tours of our facility, so we invite you to come and join us. So we're excited to spend some time today to share with each of you really some of, Kara, you want to go to the next slide? Next slide. Yeah, so we're excited today to share with you some of the latest trends that we're seeing. There's a lot happening now, as you can imagine, in digital marketing, especially as we look at kind of what we call the new normal. And more importantly, one of our goals today is that we could really provoke some ideas and provide you with some practical marketing strategies and tactics that you may want to consider, especially during these times. So next, we're going to talk about what we're going to cover today. Next slide, Kara, please. So during today's discussion, we're going to cover what are some of the trends we're seeing in digital, especially as we navigate through COVID-19 and the reopening of our local communities, which we're all like super excited about. We also want to spend some time to share the importance of building a strong foundation for your brand. This is key before you go out and do anything, and it's probably good timing to do that kind of as we look at this new normal. Kara's then going to walk you through some of the strategies and tactics that you may want to consider, and then of course we're going to have some questions. So next slide. So the first thing I want to talk a little bit about was what's happening in the digital landscape today. Next. First, let's address how COVID has dramatically impacted the digital landscape. And I'm sure you all are noticing your behaviors have changed. So from a marketing perspective, it's sort of, we're turned a little on our head. But a recent study, and it's not surprising, is reporting that the move to digital is accelerating at an unheard of rate and pace. And some of these highlights are 30% of people, and we're doing this today, are now experiencing working remotely for the first time. So new tools like Zoom, like we're on today, and other tools, we use Teams at Brandstar are now must-have for today's workforce. It's now not a nice to have, it's a need to have. And whether this is for internal or for external customer interaction, like we're doing today, we've talked to a number of businesses, let's say insurance companies, that they're now still interacting with their customers, but they're actually doing that through the virtual means. And obviously we're seeing like telehealth go through the roof. More consumers now are really trying online services such as food and grocery and other things that maybe they wouldn't have done before. And more people are subscribing and consuming more of streaming services like the Netflix and the Hulus, and then you've got the second tier like the Stirs and the Plutos, and they've rocketed. And from a marketing perspective, this is creating new and expanded opportunities to engage with your current customers and also new customers. And now the last part of this, as we're all experiencing, is now consumers more than ever see constant connectivity as a must-have. So what does that mean? We have more eyeballs in digital. It's a digital world. Next slide. So what are some of the advantages of embracing digital for your business? And I'm sure all of you have dipped your toe in the water and you've done a little bit of this and a little bit of this, that. So as a marketer, and I've been doing this a long time, as Chastity alluded to, I'm very passionate about digital, as we see firsthand every day working hand in hand with our brand partners, our clients, on the benefits and more importantly, the results. And first, like no other marketing or advertising channel, digital provides us with the most powerful tools and analytics. So we're taking the guesswork out of it so that we could reach the right person at the right time with the exact right message. And what's important is on the right device. And later on in the presentation, Kara's going to get into some of those tactics that you might want to consider doing a little more research or testing. Also, due to COVID, a lot of the big advertisers have pulled out. So this is creating amazing, right now, as let's say this, in our community in Boca, that's now creating a great opportunity to get advertising at very cost-effective, the pricing rates have gone down for sure. So, and as we look to be like very efficient with our dollars because, you know, we have limited budgets. It's really a way for us to get the biggest bang for our buck. So it's always measurable. It's always can be ROI focused. So it's really kind of a unique time from really a marketing perspective. Next slide. So the next point I want to make is your customers do want to hear from you. So a recent study on consumer sentiment showed, and this was done in March. This study was done right at the beginning of COVID, and March seems like that was like 10 years ago already, although the weeks are going really fast. But customers say they want to hear from brands that they trust. They want to hear from you. And not surprisingly, many of these consumers that were surveyed wanted to know what brands were doing to do good in the community. And they still want to hear that during these trying times, as well as how the businesses are responding. But a large percentage felt reassured, and that reassured, that hearing from the brands they trust, that they were okay. And obviously the messaging that we're using now is very different, but the fact of it is that your customers want to hear from you. A very small percentage of consumers actually said they didn't want to hear from brands. So what does all that mean? I like to call it the perfect storm. It's a great time to jump in to digital. And so next slide. So now before we move on to getting into what are the channels and what are the tactics, I like to talk about building a strong foundation. I think it's an opportunity for all the brands out there to kind of take a step back so that, you know, you've got your messaging right. And I like to call this the basic blocking and tackling. You got to do this. So next slide. So the first thing we're going to talk about is you've got to have a strategy. You have to have a plan, right? So we know by definition, strategy is a plan of action designed to achieve a major or overall aim. This is important first step in setting your marketing plan. And let's just call it our new marketing plan, because the whole world has changed. It's not the same environment as it was pre-COVID. And by the way, this strategy, it doesn't have to be complicated, but this is always the very first and important step when we are working with our clients. We always start with strategy. I use a term, form follows function. Let's set the strategy, and then we'll figure out what are the right tactics that we need to deploy to achieve the strategy. So we're gonna dive into some of the key elements of your strategy. Next slide. So first and foremost, understand who your target audiences are. Now you might have a target audience, you might have multiple target audiences. So I'll just give you an example. So for instance, we're working with the city of Boca on this reopening plan. And so we've identified 4 target audiences, right? We've identified Gen Z, we've identified the boomers, we've identified families, and then obviously very important is our local business community. So really understanding your target audiences is a critical component in building your marketing plan, because different target audiences are consuming and engaging with different channels. And so the tactics that you deploy to each target audience, and obviously the messaging, is going to be very unique. So the great piece of this is that digital, again, going back to my perfect storm, digital gives us that ability to speak to each of these audiences with the right message at the right time on the right device. Next slide. Thank you. So the next one is goals. So it seems like a basic concept, but it's really important for your marketing that you establish your goals. And that's really part of the framework. So I like to talk about the five S's, right? So probably many of you fall in the category of trying to sell something, right? So you're trying to sell something, whether that's a transaction online, if you sell products online. I know a lot of retailers, even local small retailers, because of COVID, have now had to pivot their business to, sell online, and maybe they're doing curbside pickup. Others are trying to generate leads that convert to sales. So if you're in the insurance business or in the financial planning, your digital marketing, the goal of that may be to generate leads. Next is what we call speaking. Maybe you're just trying to build awareness of your brand or your products or services, or deliver an educational message. A timely example of that is the campaign that we're working on as we speak with the city of Boca. So obviously you could see we're like super excited about that. And another goal of your digital may be to better serve. So serve, meaning your current customers. Obviously the digital channels such as social media, those are good platforms for customer interaction and customer service. So if that may be a goal as part of your marketing, the next may be to save, right? As I discussed earlier, digital channels provide really a much more cost-efficient way to reach the target audiences. So your goal of your digital marketing may be to get your cost per acquisition down. If it was $50, maybe you want to get it to $25 through digital. And last but not least, the sizzle, right? You're really trying to build your brand, and digital channels gives us the most robust ways to present the brand, which is great because we could use video and imagery. And so a lot of part of that is what we call the sizzle. Next. Okay, so solidifying your brand. And I'm gonna I lump this into 4 guiding principles. So a key aspect of your basic blocking and tackling is centered around your brand, your story, right? And how you want your audiences to perceive and feel about your brand, who you are, what you stand for, what are your values. So when we're working with brands, and we do a lot of branding work, I like to focus on these guiding principles because it kind of puts it in easy, digestible chunks, right? 1, we want to make sure that your brand looks and speaks to your target audiences in a way that appeals to them, right? We want it to appeal to them. Secondly, differentiation. This is really important. What is your unique value proposition, your secret sauce, your competitive advantage, right? What can you do that nobody else can? And so a lot of times when we meet with brands and we're working with brands, they'll say, well, we have better customer service. Well, anybody could say that. So really honing in and understanding what that secret sauce is, that competitive advantage, is Friday, and try to make this a tangible benefit. So, and it could be, you guarantee, you have a 30-day guarantee. You could be the lowest price. It could be a number of things. And, again, there's, various exercises that you could do to really start to hone in on that and develop the framework of your differentiation. The third piece of solidifying your brand is make an impact through your messaging as well as visuals. You want your brand to be memorable, right? If you think about brands that you love, why do you love them? Why are they so memorable, right? So think about really focusing around what you're saying and how you present the brand visually. And lastly, and this is where we see a lot of brands struggle, is consistency and continuity. So by having consistency and continuity, that's really where you start to build trust with your current customers as well as prospective customers. Next. And I kind of say, for my part, I save this a little bit for last, but this is so important. So I want to talk about the importance of having an awesome, not great, awesome website. And by the way, it doesn't cost a lot of money these days to have an awesome website. There's a lot of tools, there's a lot of companies, there's freelancers, but have a great website. It's your storefront. That is today's storefront. And certainly as we all move to this new digital world, even in a much bigger way, this is going to become even more and more important. So, so as people are, researching your company online, they're going to your website, they're looking at reviews. So it's just, it's a must-have. And I tell you, we talk to a lot of local, we do a lot of, have a lot of clients in the local South Florida market, and there's definitely some room for improvement. So first and foremost, you want to make sure that your website is professional, and it's back to what we were talking about, the branding. It's consistent with your brand. So if you have a color palette, if you want to make sure that it's very professional and it's visually appealing. Secondly, mobile first. So if you work with if you're working with a web developer to redesign your website, or when we're developing websites, we always think about mobile first. Most people are now engaging with websites via mobile, and especially as we think about local businesses, if you're a restaurant or a small retailer, they're on their phone or their tablet, and it's probably 60–70% of the traffic. So always think about mobile first. Next is, it needs to be easy and intuitive to navigate. I call it the grandmother's test. Your grandmother needs to be able to navigate the website. If it's hard to find something, you're going to lose people. So having an intuitive navigation to get people to the information they're seeking is super, super important. Next is have great content. Especially today, it's so easy to create content. We now have these great devices, and if you have the iPhone 11, you can take beautiful images, and you can take video. I mean, Lady Gaga did her last music video with the iPhone 11. You could come to, a company like Brandstar to create really cost-effective videos, but have really great content. And integrate. The next is strong calls to action, meaning learn more, contact me, sign up, buy now. have very strong calls to action throughout the website. You also, as it relates to those calls to action, you want to make sure that you're utilizing best practices in actually converting those users to the action. So whether it's fill out a form or it's add something to the shopping cart and check out. So what's the conversion? Or it could be a phone call, right? Could be a phone call as well. Also think about capturing emails. So you did something to get people to your website. So why not incent them to give their email address? Maybe you could send product updates or events, or there's industry news. So again, you could develop a strategy for email nurturing. And I know Kara's gonna touch upon email because email is still alive. Email is not dead, so that's a fallacy. Social media, make sure you have all of your social media profiles linked from your website. And then the last 2 points kind of work hand in hand. You want to make sure that the website technically loads fast, because that has a lot of impact across a lot of different things. Number one, users being frustrated. So if your images are too heavy, or it also impacts your search engine optimization, which is my last point. And we could have another webinar on search engine optimization. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. I know probably many of you either work with companies such as ours that provide search engine optimization, or you may have somebody in-house. But those are kind of all the basics around having a really, really great website. So now I'm proud and honored to be able to turn this over to Kara so she can get into the really fun stuff.
Hi, everybody, and thank you, Georgie. I appreciate the introduction. I'm going to go through 7 tactics that are very important to implementing a marketing strategy. I know that Georgie talked heavily about setting a great foundation and the importance of strategy, but the tactics really are what help us achieve our marketing goals. So first up on the list is content. And content's really important because it helps you establish credibility with consumers. By now, we've all likely heard, quote unquote, that content is king. We've been talking about content marketing for several years now, but the reality is that content is the first thing that consumers engage with. Most people who browse digitally for a service or a product start on the internet. They leverage certain search engines, and then they engage with the content on your website to find out whether or not you're real, are you reliable, can they trust you, and should they work with you or buy from you. So it's really important that we publish our very best material as far as content goes. Make sure your website is up to date. Make sure you're leveraging a blog that has up-to-date information, industry insights, all the news that people would want to know about your brand or your service or product. Make sure that you're using data to evaluate how your content's performing. Your analytics should tell you whether or not people look at articles or engage with certain pages on your website. So data is always going to be a big part of anything that we talk about digitally. We want to also make sure that you're repurposing your content. You're spending a lot of time and energy building great content, whether it's a blog post or building a new page on your website, or even something as simple as posting a social post. These things take time and energy. So we want to make sure that we're reposting information, we're sharing information. Maybe a blog that's on your site gets shared on LinkedIn as a news article. These types of things are a really great way to help users engage with the work that you're putting so much energy into. Implementing keywords. Keywords are a great way to be found. We know that from a search engine perspective. So implementing things like the, Boca Raton and whatever industry you may be in, whether it's insurance or restaurant or whatever it might be. Implementing branded and unbranded keywords in your content is a great way to help increase visibility. And then we want to make sure your content really reflects your brand's voice. Your brand should have a tone. Are you fun? Are you energetic? Are you serious? Who are you? And how do you want to be perceived? Make sure that's very easy to find in the content that you're publishing. And then on this slide, we've just listed a few samples of engaging content types. Things like articles, videos. We know video performs so well. Downloadable content on your site is a great resource for people. And checklists, things that people can download to make sure that they're doing things properly. These types of content typically get a lot of engagement on websites and are a great place to start engaging people. Next up, I want to talk about Google My Business. So this used to be Google Plus, which sort of flopped, but Google My Business is now the localized focus on the search engines. So if you search for a business or you look for a pet shop near me, all of these business listings are going to show up first. For some of our clients, this has been a hindrance because they're trying to spend money on AdWords, but the localized business listings have a priority on Google because people really want to find what's nearby. So Google My Business is a great place to make sure you have all of your updated information posted. Make sure your phone number is on there. Make sure all of your contact information is on there. Typically, you have to claim ownership of this listing. Google will pre-populate it for your business. But once you've claimed the listing, you can update all of your information. And also, it's a great place to gather reviews. I know a lot of us, especially Amazon shoppers, we read reviews before we buy anything. Same thing with service industry businesses, hotels, restaurants. People want to hear feedback from other people who have visited that location. So incentivize people to leave you a great review on your Google listing. And it's just a great place to interact with customers. You can load pictures on there. You can really customize that listing page. It's definitely something we recommend for our chamber members who are our local community here. So I'm going to talk about social media. And social media, we've all been talking about social media for several years now. But the market has changed. Obviously, there are so many platforms out there now. And so people get overwhelmed. I mean, one of the #1 things I hear from clients when they come to BrandStar to do some discovery with Georgie and I is, we have social and we set up the page, but we don't really know what to do with it. It takes too much time to post there. We have 18 channels and we don't even post on any of them but Facebook. It tends to be a big challenge for people to manage these resources. So we typically always recommend starting with just a few initially. Look at your business and figure out who your target audience is, like Georgie mentioned in the beginning, and where would they be spending time when it comes to social media. Most of the time, we do tend to focus on Facebook as a recommended platform just because they're the largest network and they have the most advertising tools. But all of the channels are a little bit different. So, Facebook is really the largest platform. As you can see here, they've got about 2.23 billion monthly active users. And they've got a decent age range from a targeting perspective. So they really focus on ages 25 to 54. They're almost a 50-50 split with female and men, but there's a little bit more women using that platform. And it's a really great tool to create brand loyalty. A lot of people do like and follow brands that they engage with on social media, especially if they want to stay up to date with promotions or sales or new products. So it's a great brand loyalty platform. And like I mentioned before, they have the most active users. So if you're going to look at a tool to focus in on, we almost always recommend Facebook first. Twitter is another popular platform. They focus on ages 18 to 29, and they have really more of a PR or a news focus as far as their consumer goes. Pinterest is such an interesting platform. It's really best for a female targeted audience. People who are looking for lead gen for certain niche industries like clothing or fitness or food bloggers. Those types of people can create really great channels on Pinterest that generate actual leads for them. But it is a time-consuming platform, so we always want to think about our strategy and our commitment when we opt into choosing to move forward with Pinterest. LinkedIn, of course, great platform. I'm sure all of us have a LinkedIn profile. The ages on there skew a little bit older, 30 to 50. It's really a B2B platform, as we all know. People do use that for business development, creating a community for business relationships. And we've seen a lot of growth in LinkedIn engagement. People are using that tool for lead gen. They have really great advertising tools now. So it's a very diverse platform. Instagram, of course, is part of Facebook. So a lot of times if you're using Facebook, you're also using Instagram. They are connected, so it's very easy to share your content between both platforms. Instagram really focuses on a younger audience, 18 to 29, but it's a huge lead gen tool, especially for retail sales, e-commerce sales. So we find a ton of success for people with products who want to sell products online by using Instagram. And then the two newbies are Snapchat and TikTok. And before I came on this call, my boyfriend was making fun of me for bringing up TikTok because he's 40 and I think TikTok maybe scares him a little bit. But these two platforms do skew younger. Snapchat as young as 12 is what some of the data said, up to about the 25-year-old range. And so it's really all about figuring out which channel is right, who your target audience is, and focusing your energy on the platforms that are going to get you the biggest bang for your buck. In addition to picking the right platforms for all of your organic content, you really should be leveraging a pay-to-play strategy. Almost always now we recommend, if you're going to spend the energy or the time on organic social, you should be spending a little bit of money to amplify your reach. So some recent research has showed that about 1 to 3% of the people who like and follow your social pages organically will see your content. If you don't pay, only about 1% of the people who follow you will ever see all of that hard work that you're putting into creating that content. So we really do recommend that you use a paid strategy, and there's a few different ways that you can do that. One of them is boosting posts, which I'm sure all of you have seen. When you create content on your Facebook page, Facebook will make a suggestion to you to boost that post. You can spend some money, and basically that just elevates the messaging. It puts you higher in the feed. It puts you in front of the people who need to see your message, but it's not really a full paid advertising strategy. Facebook's dark paid advertising is really where you can go into building all of your targeting, and you can really focus on the people who you want to get in front of that maybe haven't connected with your business or your brand yet. So it's a really interesting tool because social media obviously has all of this data on us, right? They know our behaviors, they know what we like and we don't like, they know if we have pets or a husband or all of these attributes that they store on us. It's about 90 attributes for every single one of us that these social platforms save. And this really helps us build laser focused targeting. So when we're doing a dark paid ad strategy, there's some really cool tools where you can implement, let's say, your email list. You have a really great email list. You load that into your Facebook ad manager, and Facebook matches those emails to the constituent that you're looking for. Once you have those lists imported, you're able to start serving ads to them right away. And Facebook goes through a learning period where basically it learns what do these audience have in common. Do they all have pets? Do they all like automobiles? What are the attributes that are bringing together this list? And then you're allowed to take that data and build what's called a lookalike audience. And you can build lots of lookalike audiences. And that's really how you navigate your customer down a funnel using the paid marketing strategy. So you cast this really wide net initially. That's your awareness stage. And then using the Facebook advertising tools, you can really funnel people down into a conversion. And lookalike audiences have helped us sell a lot of product for businesses. It's also worked in the nonprofit space from a fundraising perspective to help nonprofits connect with new constituents, tell their story, and drive them to donate. So it's a really, really powerful tool. And the other really cool thing about the social advertising platforms is that they allow you to save your audience data for a full year. So any of your learnings from an initial campaign that you might set up, you can go back to that data, you can go back to those audiences and create new campaigns and serve them up to them again. So a lot of really powerful tools, analytics, and data are available to you to connect with new people, to tell your story, and like Georgie said, on the right platforms to build business. Email marketing. Okay, so as Georgie mentioned, email marketing is not dead. There's a few different ways to look at email marketing, but I always like to ask myself the questions: who, what, where, when, why? What are we doing with this email? Why are we sending it? What do you want the customer to do with it once they get it? And there's different types of emails, right? So you've got your brand messaging emails. Some people do quarterly newsletters. And in the e-commerce space, there could be a sequence of emails that you create to get people to convert to purchase. So email is still a very strong strategy. We see an extremely high conversion rate from email for e-commerce brands. But I do think you need to ask yourself, who are you sending this to? What do they want to hear from you? Why would they want to hear from you? And when should they be hearing from you before you implement an email strategy? It's always great to create a content calendar. Content calendars are great across the board for all of these tactics. So that way you really focus your messaging. And also so you're not bombarding people. I know a lot of people think, oh my gosh, I get so many emails. I don't even read all of them. But if the content is on point for the audience, people are going to open and engage with you. So creating a strong content calendar is always something I would recommend. And then, as I've said a few times, what do people actually want to hear about? A monthly newsletter, you need to make sure that that content is going to the right people and that they're actually going to engage with it. So all of these things tied together can create a really great email marketing strategy. And then there's a few other things, obviously, you're going to want to look into when building this out. There's so many platforms out there now. They all have different tools. You can do things on the free end with like a MailChimp, and you can go all the way up to a Klaviyo tool, which has a ton of great features. But email is a strategy, just like any other strategy. And it's also a tactic. So there's tools, there's resources, and there's best practices when it comes to email marketing. And then, of course, tracking and analytics. So we wouldn't be marketers if we didn't talk about tracking and analytics. Something that's come about, in the last 5-10 years are pixels. Pixels are of the utmost importance when it comes to tracking your customer behavior. So we always, first and foremost, make sure you have a Google Analytics pixel and a Facebook pixel on your website for any type of marketing that we're going to do, even if it's a television commercial. And the reason that these are so important is because the pixel stores data on that customer's behavior before they come on your website, after they leave your website, once they go to social media channels, we can track their behavior there. So the pixel really allows us to really build these audiences that mean so much to us when we're spending money on advertising. So the pixel is very important. And then it's really important to also define how you're going to measure success for any type of marketing campaign that you're going to do, whether it's an organic campaign or a paid campaign. What do you want to get out of this at the end of the day? Are you looking to generate traffic to your site? Are you looking to generate leads? Do you want to get purchases? And measuring success is very, very important to us. Your ROI and your ROAS are very, very important metrics to any marketing company, and it should be to you as well. We want to make sure you're getting a return on investment, getting a return on your ad spend, and we're continuing to amplify and grow those metrics as well. There is no one and done when it comes to digital marketing. And of course, you want to constantly review and analyze what you're doing. You need to be able to modify your distribution. You might start Facebook advertising, realize it's not really working, and you should pivot and spend more of your money on a Google pay-per-click campaign. So measuring distribution, what's working, what's not. Testing and learning are all very important parts of any marketing campaign. And then our last few slides, we put together a list of resources. I know that the Chamber is going to share this presentation with you guys, but if you're looking for resources in this space, there's some great links here, and Georgie and I would be happy to provide you with any other resources that may not be listed here if you have any questions. And then we just wanted to summarize before we go into our Q&A, what we've sort of talked about today. So as Georgie mentioned, right now is a perfect storm for digital marketing. It's very important to understand your target audiences and establish goals for your marketing campaigns. We want to make sure you have the right foundation, that your brand is solidified, and that all of your marketing tools are up to date, including your website. And then, of course, choosing the right digital tactics and channels is going to help define success and also impact ROI. We really want to make sure we're testing, we're learning, we're pivoting, and we're growing along the way. And then Georgie had shared this cartoon, and I don't know if we can hand over the audio control to her. There you go. There she is.
Hi. Thank you, Kara. That was awesome. Really great stuff. And I hope that everybody is, it's provoking some, I'll call it inspiration to, if you're not really embracing digital as a key aspect of your marketing, given the new world, that you really take this unique moment in time to, to try some things. Maybe try some things that you haven't tried. You've thought about doing it, whether it's Facebook or some of the other tactics that Kara was talking. If there is anything that Kara and I can do, as far as if you just want to get some advice from us, we're always available. We are very committed to supporting the South Florida local business community and nonprofits. So, and as soon as this COVID thing is somewhat behind us, we'd really like to have you come visit us. We love to have company at Brandstar. And I think now we're going to take some questions.
Hi, ladies. Thank you for a great presentation. One of the viewers did ask, is it worth it to pay Google to boost an ad, photo, or logo?
Can you repeat it one more time?
One of the viewers asked, is it worth it to pay Google to boost an ad or a photo?
Georgie, what are your thoughts?
So depending on what your business is would depend on what the right Google strategy would be. If you're talking about Google AdWords campaign, again, it would depend on the type of business. Obviously, Google is the de facto place where we're all searching, especially now because everybody is just connected. They're now on their TV, they're doing it. So you should have a Google strategy for sure. And having a paid strategy, again, it would just depends on the business. If you're an attorney, that's very expensive place to play in Google. So it really would just depend on the business and the goals and that sort of thing. So I hope that kind of answers your question.
Thank you. Those are all the questions I see right now. Just a reminder to the attendees, there's a Q&A button at the bottom. So if you click that, you'll be able to type in your answer or your question. And we will be sending a follow-up email with our contact information and the slides. So if anything does come up later, you can always reach out.
Okay, guys. So if there's no further questions, or if you decide to throw one in while I'm speaking, you sure can. Thank you, Kara and Georgie, so much for this presentation. I mean, I'm texting Sophia, oh my gosh, this slide was good, or let's share it with our own marketing gal, and Troy needs to see this slide because he's always asking these questions. So it was very informative. We greatly appreciate you taking the time and being here with us today. Thank you so much for all who attended. We love providing these types of workshops for you during this crazy time. Sorry we can't be together in person and, you know, do those hugs and how you doing, but hopefully we'll be there soon. So please make sure that you check out the Chamber's website events calendar to see what's coming up. We actually have one at 2 p.m. today on the reopening of Florida with Gunster. So that's going to be pretty amazing because I know tons of people have a lot of questions, because I know I have a lot of questions for that. So be sure to come check it out. Just go out to the website. There's still time for you to register. It starts at 2 p.m. Make sure you also download our Chamber app, because you can find all that information right at your fingertips on your cell phone. So be sure to stay safe, stay healthy, and have a wonderful weekend. Bye, everybody. Thanks, ladies.
Bye. Thank you.